Okay, I hate to do this to you because the name of this channel is They Think You're Stupid. However, we got to talk about Zoran Mamdani. 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 And this guy is who was elected by the Democratic Party in New York to be the nominee for mayor. So it turns out that a lot of people in New York actually are stupid. Okay, so first of all, before we get into this, you need to understand that they do think you're stupid. That's the reason this guy's a communist. Communism, Marxism, socialism. It's not cool to say that communism is what you actually subscribe to because of all of the, mass murder that has occurred under that ideology and the history of all the failures, because it always fails. So the new word, which means the same damn thing, is socialism, or even better, let's call ourselves democratic socialism, because if you put the word democratic in front of something, it makes it sound like it's legit. Again, because they think we are so stupid and that we don't know the difference and that most Americans don't understand history, which, granted, so many of them do not. And we, because of that, we are possibly doomed to repeat all of the horror of the past because of this. However, keep that in mind. Every time you hear socialist, ask somebody, oh, are you a communist? Oh, well, I'm sure I'll admit it to you if I am. But that's just a word. It's just a word. There are some differences between the ideologies, but not much. I mean, honestly, when you're looking at an ideology that is going to cause total destruction of our society, I mean, do you really care? The minor differences, does it really matter when all of these things are just, avenue of destruction? I don't think it really matters, the difference, but here we go.
Minnesota facing a federal lawsuit for providing more than $380,000 in free and reduced college tuition to illegal immigrants, a benefit that the DOJ argues is being denied to American citizens. So let's bring in Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you.
Let's put up on the screen the benefits for these undocumented citizens in this state. Pam Bondi has a big problem with this. We're $37 trillion in debt, Jason, and this is how the Democrats want to spend our tax dollars.
I mean, when are they going to start to prioritize Americans, tax-paying Americans, people who...
I love the rhetorical questions they do on Fox News. When are they going to care about us? When are they going to care about citizens and stuff? Why did you even say that? Like, make it more direct. Like, they don't care. Make it a statement. They do not care about you. That would make more sense than when are they gonna? Because they're not gonna. Because they never have and they never will. And this is, I hate the rhetoric on these shows. This is a pretty good report on this guy, and that's why I'm looking at it. But it's like, I don't know, these news shows just are so cringy.
Actually work hard, pay their taxes, grew up there. But again, time and time again, you find this is a lot of money. And they forget about all those people, good people in Minnesota. But at some point, the people in Minnesota are actually going to stand up for themselves and say, enough of this.
Right.
The craziness has to stop.
Is it fair to say that the Democrats want to put illegals first and Americans second?
Yeah.
Or last?
I mean, they do it.
Really? God, the way they talk on these shows just drive me crazy. I swear to God.
In terms of police and police support, they do it in terms of, pushing them back. They do it in terms of their dollars. And you're struggling, you're trying to get your kid into college, and you see somebody else who's here illegally and they get all these benefits and you don't.
Blah, 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 blah. I can't do it. I got to get to the point here.
So Mamdani, who is this liberal, socialist, Democratic candidate for mayor here in New York City, was on Meet the Press. Listen to this.
By invoking race, do you run the risk of potentially alienating key constituents?
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods. I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality.
Are you committed to keeping New York as a sanctuary city?
Absolutely, because ultimately we've seen that this is a policy that has kept New Yorkers safe for decades.
He talks about targeting whiter neighborhoods with higher taxes. How is that not racist or unconstitutional?
Oh, it's 100% racist, and he's anti-capitalism. He doesn't like our system of government. He wants to get rid of that. And let's have government-run grocery stores, you know, just like the DMV. Let's do that for grocery stores.
Okay. Take a look at this. Freeze rent, creating city-owned grocery stores. Have you ever heard of bread lines? Like from the Soviet Union, people, you know, they were so poor and nothing works, and you know, they were standing in line for toilet paper and all that kind of stuff. And you hear about the Great Depression and how horrible it was. This is what he's talking about creating. Fare-free buses. Everything's free because we live in a magical fairyland where we don't need anything but, you know, Harry Potter wands and whatnot to get the stuff that we need. It doesn't take funds or, you know, revenue. Nothing. It just comes into existence, right? Because we want it to, you know. Expanding and protecting gender-affirming care. There we go. Let's chop your child's prick off or whatever if we want to. If it's sounds like a good idea when you're 7 years old. Raising the minimum wage. I think he wants to raise it to like $30 an hour or something like that. Man, that's going to be an expensive Big Mac. It really is. We're not going to be able to eat that crap anymore. End ICE cooperation, like it's an option, like it's optional, like we don't have a federal government and there are not federal laws and we don't have to follow them because well, we don't want to. Where do these people come from? Like, how are they raised and why do they believe these things? You know, if you look at history, there's like a cycle of decadence or something where, you know, we struggle as a nation, we have to fight for our independence, and then things are hard, and then, you know, you've got all the pioneers and everybody's, you know, building up the country, and you struggle, and then everybody's wealthy, and everyone is comfortable, and then the generation that comes out of that generation end up being psychopaths because they've always had everything they want. They've never needed anything. They've never wanted anything. They've been able to, be spoiled rotten, I guess. And then then they destroy everything, and then the cycle repeats and it starts all over again. Well, I think that's where we're at right now, is because these morons that are living in these cities that think that, you know, I don't know, Happy Meals grow on trees, and just the food doesn't exist anywhere but the grocery stores, and it just sprouts up, you know, there. It doesn't have to get there. It doesn't have to be trucked in. It doesn't have to be, paid for. Everything's free and magical fairies, and, you know, we're all going to find the wardrobe and escape to Narnia or something. I don't really understand why they think this, but it's infuriating to listen to, but let's...
Stores. The guy is a socialist. He does not believe in an America that I believe in. And this is serious, folks. He puts that big smile on there, starts eating his food with his hands, and I hope New York wakes up to the fact.
No billionaires. I mean, the billionaires who live in New York City.
Wealth redistribution.
Yes, but they pay the majority of New York City taxes. They're all going to leave in droves. More of them will leave.
They already have started, and there are going to be more of them leaving.
The mayor of Boca, on the front cover of the New York Post this morning, is saying, come on down to Boca. We won't tax your business. We don't have a state tax. All right, tell us about your new book. It's coming out tomorrow.
Yes, it's called They're Coming for You.
That's a pretty good name for a book. They're coming for you. Anyway, this is the myth of socialism, communism, but people don't understand historically why this is such a bad idea, because they don't know history, because the schools are raising your children to be stupid, literally. They are raising your children to be stupid. So they don't have a really good grasp of history. If you ask any one of them about slavery, they'll be able to give you a dissertation. But that's pretty much it. When you look at where they stop teaching children or, the history of the world, like there's a lot of things that happen in the world, but they seem to focus on certain topics, divisive topics, instead of topics that actually would be more, would bring people together, help us learn from our mistakes in a wider scope. It's like they're not going to do that. So people are raised, now this generation, like they don't understand why certain things are so dangerous and horrible, and we need to stay as far away from it as possible. So I really feel sorry for the people in New York City in some sense. Part of me does and part of me does not, because you're letting this happen. You do have the ability to change. It's happened before. When Rudy Giuliani was elected years ago, the city was a shithole, and everybody was, there was all this crime, just like it is now. It was really bad. And he took over and he started policing things up. He started putting people in jail when they committed crimes. It was pretty simple. He enforced the law. And a lot of people have different views on how he did it and everything, but he actually made New York City a place that you would actually want to go visit. I wouldn't go there if you, tied me up and threw me in a trunk. I would get out somehow, because I would not want to spend time in New York City. It is not a place that you want to actually hang out, because it is a very dangerous city. It's a sanctuary city, and it's a very dangerous place to go right now. I mean, there are places that are okay. It's not, everything doesn't look like the news. You know what I mean? It's like every square inch of whatever city you're looking at on the news doesn't look like that. There's not necessarily turmoil in every corner. However, it is bad. They do have a problem with illegal immigration and crime, and the way they release criminals is a problem, because they'll arrest people and then they'll have to just let them right back out. That is a very dangerous environment, and the more people that you have, the more criminals are going to come to you and want to live there, because they can do what they want and just get released. It's the same way in California. If they get a communist in there, I mean, God help them. That's all I got to say. It's really going to be bad. It's hard for me to believe that the majority of New Yorkers would actually go for this, which makes me wonder what the political machine looks like as far as voting goes. Like, I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes as far as how politics work in New York and other places like that, like California. We'll see what happens. But, again, don't buy this. Don't buy democratic socialism. That is just a catchphrase that's used because nobody wants the stigma that comes with communism. So you don't want to be called a communist, because if you actually start looking into that, I mean, that's a horror show. Mao Zedong actually he was the biggest mass murderer in the history of the world. So communism, is murder, is the death of a nation. So just don't let it fool you. They think you're stupid, but I know you're not. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.